Eleanor Hayes had presided over dozens of cases in her career as a judge, but nothing had ever prepared her for the moment the bailiff led the defendant into her courtroom. Shackled at the wrists and ankles, the man wasn't a stranger. He was James Anderson. Her, James. Memories flooded her. Summer afternoons racing bikes through the dusty streets of Hammond, Louisiana. Late-night talks under the magnolia tree in her backyard. The promises they had made as kids to always have each other's backs. But the man standing before her now wasn't the boy she remembered. His shoulders were hunched, his face hardened by years of struggle. Only his eyes, deep and soulful, were the same. Eleanor's grip on the gavel faltered. For the first time in her career, she hesitated. The courtroom seemed to shrink around her as she forced herself to speak. "Mr. Anderson, you stand accused of assault and robbery. How do you plead?" James's voice was rough, almost unrecognizable. "Not guilty, Your Honor." Her heart pounded. She wanted to stop everything, to demand answers, but her role demanded composure. "Proceed," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. As the prosecutor began, Eleanor's thoughts drifted back. She and James had grown up on opposite sides of a divided town. Her family lived in a modest home with a white picket fence. James's family lived in a weathered house at the end of a dirt road. Their friendship had been an anomaly, born by chance one day at a creek where James was fishing. From that moment, their bond deepened despite the whispers, the sideways glances, and the outright disapproval. But the pressure was always there, pressing down until it finally broke them apart. One summer night before high school, Eleanor's father had caught them together. His voice was cold, sharp with authority. "Eleanor, get inside. Now." James had whispered, "Go on. I'll see you around." But she never did. Soon after, his family moved away. Eleanor buried herself in school, in ambition, and years later, in law. She had made it out. James, it seemed, had not. Now his record lay before her. A series of petty arrests, nothing violent until now. But the charge he faced, assault and robbery, was serious. If convicted, it could mean years in prison. The first witness testified, the store clerk. He claimed James had lunged over the counter during a robbery, but under cross-examination he admitted he hadn't clearly seen the attacker's face. Then came the surveillance footage, grainy, dark, showing a figure in a red hoodie. The prosecutor insisted it was James. Eleanor leaned forward, studying it, but the face was unrecognizable. James's defense attorney argued an alibi. He'd been walking home from a friend's house, but the friend refused to testify, too afraid of retaliation. The jury looked skeptical. By the time court adjourned for lunch, Eleanor's chest felt heavy. In her chambers, her assistant asked if she was all right. Eleanor only nodded. How could she admit that the man on trial was once the boy who had been her best friend? When court resumed, the defense called Officer Harris, the arresting officer. Under questioning, cracks began to show. He admitted James had been stopped simply because he matched a vague description. Black male, mid-40s, dark clothing. The suspect in the video wore a red hoodie. No hoodie had ever been found. No search had even been made. The courtroom murmured. Doubt was seeping in. Then James himself took the stand. Chains clinked as he walked forward, but his voice carried a raw honesty. "I've made mistakes in my life," he said, looking directly at the jury. "I've taken wrong turns, trusted the wrong people. But I didn't do this. That night I was just walking home when the cops stopped me. They didn't ask questions. They just decided I fit the bill." His voice cracked. "I've been fighting my whole life, to be seen as more than people assume. I'm tired. I just want the truth to matter." Silence filled the courtroom. Eleanor swallowed hard, her throat tight. The next day brought closing arguments. The prosecutor leaned on circumstantial evidence, urging the jury to trust the system. The defense urged them to see the holes, to look beyond assumptions. Eleanor listened, outwardly calm, but inside her mind raced. She couldn't sway the jury, but she would have the final word if there was any room for interpretation. The jury deliberated for hours. Finally, the foreperson returned, paper trembling in her hand. In the case of the state of Louisiana versus James Anderson, we find the defendant not guilty. The courtroom erupted. Eleanor tapped her gavel, restoring order. James sagged with relief, though his face remained unreadable. "You are free to go," she said, her voice steady. "Court is adjourned." As people filed out, Eleanor lingered. James signed his release papers, then turned toward her. "You don't owe me anything," he said quietly. "But why didn't you say something? You knew me." Her throat tightened. "Because I couldn't. If I had, it might have jeopardized the case." James studied her, his face a mix of hurt and understanding. "Fair," he said bitterly. "That's the thing, Eleanor. The world's never been fair. Not for people like me." She lowered her eyes. "You're right. I wish I had done more back then. I wish I could have done more now." James sighed. His shoulders relaxed just slightly. "We were kids. We didn't know any better. But you know now, don't you?" "I do," she whispered. "And I'm sorry." He gave a faint nod, then turned and walked out the doors, his back straight. Eleanor sat alone in the empty courtroom. She had upheld the law, but the trial had revealed something deeper. Justice wasn't just about verdicts. It was about lives shaped by systems bigger than any one person. As the sun set outside, she made herself a vow. She couldn't change the past, but she could use her position not just for verdicts, but for change. It wouldn't be easy, but she owed it to James, and to herself, to try.